Welcome to Business Update. In this week's episode, we'll be talking about Xiaomi's concept car. We've discussed in previous live streams regarding Xiaomi's foray into the electric vehicle market, competing with the likes of Tesla and uh, Toyota and even GM and other companies. We'll take a look at what the car concept looks like. Next, we'll be updating regarding if you are Starlink customers. You'll be sad to know that you'll be frustrated in terms of what the service is like and how can you contact the company here. Next, we'll be talking about Disney's. Is Disney admitting regarding their mistake on simultaneously releasing Black Widow for its movie release as well as its streaming release in their Disney Plus streaming plus venture. So was it a calculated risk? Well, now it's going to cost them hundreds of millions with regards to Miss Johansen's suing them for their breaching of contract, so to speak. And lastly, we'll be talking about Activision's ongoing investigation with their unsafe or toxic work culture in their company. And now SEC, or the Security Exchange Commission, has stepped in to take a look at whether those accusations warrant further investigation. So let's begin. So as I mentioned, so in our previous discussion, the Xiaomi, one of the big smartphone manufacturers in the world, is now foraying into building its first ever Xiaomi car, so to speak. I don't know what's the name they're going to, how are they going to name it, but there has been an imagined car concept from the Xiaomi fans here. So according to notebookcheck.net, it's being imagined here. So let's take a closer look. And obviously, after days, it was after the company registered for an EV division. The company has confirmed that it has plans to release a car or electric vehicle eventually, but yet has to publish specifics or official pictures here. But what's interesting, obviously, the Xiaomi community is excited to imagine or render what a Xiaomi car would look like, which was, as you can see here in the photo, which was designed by Mo Fei. Now, obviously, one would like to envision the design has to be futuristic, which it kind of does. And obviously, it has to be designed from the ground up and including elaborate interior. Now, actually, in reality here, if you think about it, uh, coming up with a design for an electric vehicle is not an easy task because manufacturing vehicles takes a lot of years, decades, or even a century of experience to be able to do well. Just take a look at the big manufacturing firms from the Toyota, the GM, Mercedes, or even BMW here. But obviously, as more people are enamored with electric vehicles with better technology, a lot of companies are stepping in. Now, question is Xiaomi going to develop their own vehicle from the ground up, or are they going to partner, similar how Apple is doing it with partnering with other companies like, what was the company? It's not Hyundai. I forgot, a small car company. So where they can develop the experience in building cars, and obviously the Apple team is going to focus on the design aesthetic part of the vehicle itself here. But obviously, it'll take a lot of investments here, which is interesting enough. The company has promised to invest in the sum of $10 billion to invest in the EV market here, which is, it's not chump change here, but is it going to take a lot more to be able to go the distance? Obviously, you have Tesla here as the number one electric vehicle manufacturer in the world right now. And they seem to continue to grow as the years go by. And with how they make their Tesla Model 3s and with the Tesla Plaid that they recently launched. And obviously, a lot of people are looking forward to the Cybertruck, which is kind of surprising if how it would actually, how will be adapted for actual road conditions, if it's going to provide us its intended design or use. So we have to wait and see. But it's kind of interesting that a lot of car manufacturers are jumping in the bandwagon in terms of building their first ever EV. Even Toyota, whose their CEO is very against, in a sense, late to the EV market, but they're starting to ramped up their research with their solid state battery, and hopefully we'll see a more polished product sometime in the near future here. Anyway, next we have, as I mentioned, if you're a Starlink customer, you're going to be disappointed with regards to how the service is being provided here, which, for those who are not familiar, Starlink is one of the companies that Mr. Elon Musk owns. And what's interesting here, similar to their Tesla model, they don't have a customer service that you can contact, which is what's the main problem here. And I think obviously for the company, they're trying to reduce on cost, but if you're providing a service similar to whether you're selling a car or here internet connection for the masses, there has to be someone to connect you with if there's an issue here. And I think that's going to be a main issue here if they cannot do it, even though Starlink is offering tremendous packages in terms of providing satellite connectivity worldwide, especially if you live in the rural areas where access to internet would be difficult, and obviously not many telecommunications company is willing to invest in the infrastructure just to access only a few people or a few subscribers here. So that's why I think Starlink is offering a missing link in a sense for customers that don't have access to regular internet, which is important nowadays in our current conditions with our current lifestyle here. So being connected online is a very integral part anymore. And according to businessinsider.com, it mentions here that Starlink customers who paid a sum of $100 deposit 7 months, almost more than half a year ago, are getting frustrated or are frustrated already being unable to contact a customer service because they don't have none, and wondering whether their kits, when will it arrive here. So as mentioned here, after forking $100 for high-speed satellite broadband service, customers are still waiting to find out what will happen to their service, if it's going to arrive anytime soon. And what's interesting here, Starlink is providing its thousands of working satellites, as much as 1,600 satellites orbiting in our planet Earth here. Now, according to Starlink, you'll get a confirmation stating that you should expect the service to begin operating sometime in mid to late 2021. So we're now in the latter part of the year, and question here is, are you going to get the service as anytime soon here? And based on your experience, if you were to own a Tesla vehicle, how fast they developed it and how fast they are able to manufacture it. Obviously, a car is different from internet service because you need a lot of infrastructure details, yung manufacturing of the equipments for the consumers to use, and obviously everything has to be prepared or positioned so that it can be easily installed and used for daily consumption here. It also goes on to say, even if you've secured deposits, you're supposed to receive another email asking for another order of $500, $499 for the kit, which consists of the many things that you're going to need to be able to have internet access. So you have the tripod, the Wi-Fi router, the terminal itself, and $100 for the monthly subscription fee. Now, obviously, this is only would be limited to a niche market, so to speak, because not everyone is going to pay a very exorbitant fee for just to access internet. Even here in our country, which we have terrible internet access, and we are one of the countries that pays the most for the least amount of speed compared to other nations or other regions here. So what's interesting here, customers are still on the dark whether when will they be connected to the network, when will they have access to it, which is not a good thing if you're you're Starlink as a company. You're doing a service to your customers, and where's the update here? And even as recent, a customer stated that he hasn't even received any updates and can't find a customer service contact, which I think it's by design from the company to reduce the cost. And obviously the downside here is if you have issues from your customers, how can you address it, which is not a good idea, or this doesn't provide good customer experience, and more than likely people will stay away from your services here unless someone offers a better product, maybe Blue Origin from Mr. Bezos' company here. If they have a company that can set up, the same services that Starlink is offering here, so we'll have to wait and see if Mr. Elon Musk can address those concerns here. Anyway, next we were talking about, it's been ongoing even up to now, the debate or the court case regarding Mr. Johansen suing Disney for how it handled the release of her movie, whether they breached the contract, he said, she said here. But either way, based on that experience, they shifted their strategy in their succeeding films with Free Guy as well as Shang-Chi, which is doing well in the domestic market in the US. But even if it's doing well, I'm still apprehensive regarding if it's going to reach the 1 billion mark. Obviously, the pandemic is still ongoing, and for other regions, is it going to be released in China? Uh, even if it's released, will it do well, and so forth? So there are a lot of question marks here, especially for Disney, who is banking to generate millions or even billions of dollars for the MCU films that they have invested a lot in. Anyway, according to ScreenRant.com, it goes on to say that Shang-Chi and Free Guy underscores Disney's Black Widow mistake. So meaning, are they admitting they made a mistake regards to leveraging their streaming platform Disney Plus, thinking that people would you know pony up for the subscription fee on top of the additional fee for being able to watch it at home here, which is, there are pros and cons here. Obviously, thinking they could corner the market so that they could go directly to the consumers. But the issue here is, if you're a consumer like I do, why would I pay a subscription fee just to be able to watch the film? So if I don't want to watch it, makes it harder for me to access it, doesn't give you much chance to generate or maximize your profit. And another thing here is, as mentioned here in the article as well, that the piracy is a big issue here. Think about it. If you're showcasing it in your TV screen, then people could record it, they could sell it, or or sell it for bootleg the movie, which is not beneficial for your business. And as the previous model has shown, showcasing it in the movie theater where a lot of people can access it. If they are forced to watch it in the movie theater, then it enhances especially the relationship with the movie theaters. And if you try to piss off the movie theaters who has been your partner for the longest time, then they won't showcase your films anymore. And if they don't do that, then where is the film going to be released? Only in the streaming services? It will hamper the profitability or generating the revenue that it wanted to, compared in the past year. Anyway, so let's see here, or was it? There you go. So according to the article, so as mentioned, so you can see the success of even Free Guy, which is not an MCU film, is doing well in the box office right now. And Shang-Chi is even doing tremendously, even though it's not an unknown IP under the Marvel Cinematic Universe here. So which brings us to the issue, regardless, is it because of the pandemic that's why it hampered the performance of the Black Widow film, or is it because of the streaming services or business that Disney wanted to focus on, even though they had 100 million subscribers, trying to catch up to Netflix? Will it give them the best chance to maximize their revenue? Which I doubt it. It can help them in the streaming platform to grow as a business, but in terms of box office, I think the movie theaters is still the big cash cow for the film producers or movie studios here. Anyway, the shortened theatrical window, actually in the case here for Black Widow, it was really simultaneously, which cannibalized the potential for the theatrical release here. And obviously, debuting it in the streaming services hampered the sales significantly rather than going out to watch the film. That was even before the Delta variant was spreading widespread compared to now. Obviously, more people could have watched it at the time. Anyway, and obviously Disney had a difficult choice, but obviously they followed. They thought that people would continue to support it. Just take a look at how Mulan performed, right? Whether it's the streaming release or is the film that bad, that's why it performed terribly here. And obviously, having to subscribe to their Disney Plus streaming services, charging you for $30 upcharge, or you know I'm not going to pay that extra amount just to be able to do that. I'd rather watch it in the movie theater and watch the film that I want. If I want for something else, I'll pay for more. If it's I want to download it online, or maybe buy a DVD or even Blu-ray, whatever. And obviously the performance of the Black Widow is paltry compared to the other MCU films. As of this article, it only generated less than half $1 billion here, which is nowhere near. That's why Miss Johansson is asking for 100 million settlement with Disney, which I think Disney has to pay up because it was their fault for sabotaging the potential of the film. And take note, Black Widow was even more popular compared to Shang-Chi here. And obviously, when early this year people were starting to resume to their new normal, a lot of people were looking for new films to watch, and Black Widow was one of the big films at the time, right after Fast and the Furious, which did really well internationally. But Disney is reporting that it did earn an additional 125 million through its Disney Plus streaming service, which is kind of hard to gauge whether that's true or not, because for movie theater release, at least it's public information. It's easy enough for everyone to understand, and even for Miss Johansson to find out. But for the streaming services, they could always inflate or underinflate the values so that it would suit to their needs. And obviously, having exclusive theater release, like in the case of Shang-Chi and the Free Guy film, uh, made for a better financial box office, especially the first few weeks, which is the critical part of any theatrical release. And for the Free Guy film, uh, which earned 250 million worldwide, which is not significant, but it's still good enough for maybe we would have a sequel here in the future. Who knows? And even Shang-Chi, the theatrical was a theatrical win for Disney here, since it did really well here. I think, let me see here, how much did it gross already? The numbers. So let's see here. I think they're close to 500 million from what I recall. Franchises. Let's see here. Yeah, Shang-Chi right now has earned almost 200 million in the box office, and then in the international almost similar, but it's nowhere near reaching the 500 or even the 1 billion mark, even if it's doing really really well, because the fact that the IP is not known to many compared not to the original cast of the Avengers. But obviously, if it's a good film, people will come out and support the film. And as the box office receipt shows, that people did came out to watch it, despite the risk there's the risk of the Delta variant spreading across the globe here. Anyway, that's why it gives more credence to why Miss Johansson should sue them and ask for a 100 million paycheck for what she was supposed to earn. And in the Disney company traded you know traded comments regarding Miss Johansson shouldn't have asked, despite the pandemic that's going on here. But the courts have to decide at the end of the day whether Miss Johansson's case has merit here. But either way, the issue is, should Disney have simultaneously released the film? I think it should not, because Another key issue that was not mentioned in previous articles is the piracy of, downloading or recording the video online. It used to be you have to go to the movie theater and, record it with your camcorder, which is, it's not high quality. Now you can record it at home, at the privacy at your home, and then you can release it for the masses, which is kind of counterintuitive if you think about it. That's why I think streaming service is good for the library catalog of your movies, but not for new releases. And they should be released maybe 6 months to a year from now, rather than have a short time release, because it's not going to benefit the movies that was released.
What the bloody hell are you doing?
Earlier there.
I was just thinking this place is a lot smaller than I imagined
obviously,
it
if
would
they
be.
didn't do that, it could have saved this
Well, it'll be a good deal bigger
the
than this,
legal
isn't it,
cost
here,
and PR nightmare that they're dealing with right now, because it just goes to show that Disney is
grand time,
focused
eh?
primarily on generating maximum revenue at any cost, and obviously leveraging the big IPs like Star Wars or
Terrible business.
MCU films.
Gone suddenly
Question
like
is,
that.
will people still like
and him
watching
with no
those
family
types of
too.
films after a decade, after climaxing at the Avengers Endgame film? We'll still see some of the known superheroes from Thor,
15 feet.
Black
15 feet.
Panther,
5
then you have the
yards.
sequel for Doctor Strange, and then who knows what will happen to the Spider-Man movie here with Todd Holland. Todd Holland? Anyway, so question is, what will happen to their franchises here? So hopefully things can get ironed out and Disney learn from it. Also for Warner Brothers as well. Anyway, for our last story we have here regarding Activision. So, there's nothing new that's coming out of those company with regards to the toxic culture that they have with regards how they treat their employees, in particular the women. So the article here, TheVerge.com, that now the SEC is investigating Blizzard too. So the SEC is the Security Exchange Commission. So the list of government agencies investigating, what's happening in Activision's own backyard, it's now including the SEC, which is not good. So it's now subpoenaed the CEO Bobby Kotick for records pertaining to employment separation agreements, communication between senior executives, whether they knowingly knew what was happening and they allowed it to happen, or did they cover it up, or were they really didn't know what was, which is kind of impossible, because if you're a CEO, you tend to know what's happening within your company. Otherwise, you're not a great CEO if you don't know what's happening within your company here. And question here is whether Activision Blizzard disclosed information about harassment and discrimination claims to investors in a timely fashion. Again, did they cover up the issue at hand here? Whether did they address this, or did they try to just use PR statements here or press releases to sway away the negative presses here and deny what was happening here? There was a press release on the investor relations website confirming that they are cooperating with regulators and authorities. But the question here is, was there any action taken here, which is one of the main issues at hand here, because it's not just current employees that's suing the company. There are also former employees that's putting more credence regarding to the severity of the issue within the company here. The CEO goes on to say, we're deeply committed to making Activision Blizzard one of the best, most inclusive places to work anywhere. If that's the case, why are these issues popping out left and right? It's one thing if it's an isolated incident, but the more that people are coming out speaking up regarding the issue, then it breaks what the CEO is telling here, which is more on trying to steer the conversation to another direction here. And he goes on to say, there is absolutely no place anywhere in our company for discrimination, harassment, or unequal treatment of any kind, because obviously for any company to tolerate this issue is not a very conducive workplace to be with in the first place. And the fact that they're saying it, if those lawsuits were able to find evidences of such, then the CEO should be fired and should, could they be imprisoned? I don't think so. There should be a stiff penalty for those managerial positions, the CEO, the vice president, the chair, the board of directors, all of those people in positions that should be held liable for neglecting, only focusing on obviously what the shareholder thinks, the profitability, the revenue it generates for the company here. He goes on to say, while we continue to work in good faith with regulators to address and resolve past workplace issues here. Now, so there's had been ongoing issues which, which is another issue, whether it's the present, the past, or even moving forward, maybe there will be more issues popping out. How are they dealing with it, so to speak? And he finally goes on to say, we also continue to move ahead with our own initiatives to ensure that they're very best, that we are the very best place to work. We remain committed to addressing all workplace issues in a forthright and prompt manner, which is kind of more on PR speak here, so that it appeases the shareholder. But at the end of the day, if more people started speaking out regarding the company, it doesn't bode well for the CEO, because the more they try to cover up, if more people tend to speak up, then it doesn't bode well for the company, even for the CEO here. The suit, as I mentioned, alleges that employees engage in activities like cube brawl. So when you say cube brawl, drunk men, where men drank large amounts of alcohol while moving from workstation to workstation, groping or otherwise harassing female employees, which is not good. So question is, was it an isolated incident, or did the company know about it and did nothing to stop it? That's the main issue, since obviously HR would know about it, so I'm sure the CEO would know about it, and if they did not communicate, it's their responsibility either way. There were also mentions of the Cosby Suite, which is not a good term to state, wherein Blizzard employees set up a room during their BlizzCon during 2013, where men attempted to ply women with alcohol in efforts to sleep with them, which is not good, right? This is akin to rape. What do you call this? Domestic violence? No, not domestic violence. I forgot what the term is. So obviously, this is not a good climate to work on, especially if you're female here. So who's the blame here? Obviously, the immediate supervisors are in charge, the senior supervisors are in charge, and eventually the CEOs here. So if all of those issues are true, then they need to be able to rectify it, because otherwise this does not bode well for the company, and obviously no one wants to work with them anymore, and you'll be left with great employees would leave left and right, and you'll be left with mediocre employees in your company, and there will have a long-term effect in the company here. And what's interesting, a number of Blizzard executives has already left the company. One of the examples is CEO Blizzard, J. Allen Brack, who stepped down last August. And then the same day, Global Human Resources, Jesse Muschuk, also left the company. So the question is, did they know what was happening? And then they try to avoid being sued by the company, or in this case, by those individuals who, if you were in charge at the time. And it goes on to say, the company failed to address the abuse against female employees, and Blizzard's HR was cited as complicit party, accused of overlooking or under investigating claims of harassment and other. So the question is, can the courts find merit as to those issues that has been levied upon the company here? And obviously, the way it looks, it's stacking against them more, as more and more people are coming up front about here. But one thing is sad about is, because this could have been avoided if the company was steered by their CEOs here. If he's complacent here, he should face the penalty here. If it's not, it's still his responsibility here to manage what's happening inside his or her company here. What's interesting here, the complaint alleges that the company, Activision Blizzard, did by threatening employees that they cannot talk about or communicate about wages, hours, and even working conditions. So maybe there's an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, but there should be a clause that if it's beyond the scope of the company, like in this case harassment, toxic work-life culture, shouldn't be given full blanket that the company is well protected here, because at the end of the day, multinationals will only look at the interest of the company, as the whole rather than just the employees or even the consumers here. It goes on to say that the complaint states that they told employees that they cannot communicate with or discuss ongoing investigation of wages, hours, and working condition. So meaning, are they trying to hide something about this? So the issue here is there should be a law to protect the employees here. Maybe we need to evolve with regards to what's prescribed in our law here. And what's interesting here is it also mentions that the overly broad special social media policy, meaning enforcing social media policy against employees who have engaged in protected concerted activity, meaning having a social media is not desirable here. It's not allowed, maybe because if you're spilling your guts online here, so can you be sued here, or are you protected by law here? It also mentions that they are threatened or disciplined employees on the account of protected concerted activity. So meaning they have cause because it is within the company's policy here that they are allowed to do this. So, and even going to the point of engage in surveillance of employees, engage in protected concerted activity, and engage in interrogation of employees. Are they now the police? And because of protected concert, so if they keep on using the protected concerted activity, meaning it applies to any situation here, then obviously it provides more leeway to the company rather than protects the interest of the employees here, which is not good. And hopefully at the end of the day, these things can be sorted out. If there's fault, then they should find the one who's responsible here and pay the penalty, and hopefully they could move forward. Because if big companies like Activision is doing this, what more for other small companies? They look at, if this company can do this, then maybe we could get away with this also. So hopefully this is not the norm rather than the exception here. Anyway, I think that concludes our another episode for this week. Thanks again for watching. Come back again on Wednesday for more business update. And if you enjoy these types of content, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Also, you can leave your comments down below if you have any questions. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.